youth, especially in JoCo, and I'm from JoCo, and yeah, it's so encouraging to see the youth out with such a fire and a zeal for God, man, and for the gospel, for Jesus. So, man, I honestly, I'm just amazed and blown away by what's going on here tonight. Before we get started, I need a couple volunteers. Yes, whoever, just need 3 or 4 of y'all. Come on up, whoever. Alex, come here. Uh, Bo, you kind of looked as confused as Mike Tyson at spelling bee. You all right? I like that outfit, man. I'm just messing with you. Alex, in that bag, y'all, there's pads, there's pens, and there's pennies. I need you to make sure everybody in this crowd gets a pad, a pen, and a penny. And so you might have to share the pens, but y'all take time and hand them all out because that's an important part of what we're doing tonight, if y'all don't mind. Okay? Alex has got them all right there. While they're handing that out, I'm just going to start real quick. We'll get to going. Probably some things y'all don't know about some of the members of this church, so I was going to tell you a quick story about Pastor Matt. Great man, phenomenal haircut. But, you know, I've had the privilege of being around Pastor Matt several times, and not long ago I actually had the privilege of going on a hunting trip with Pastor Matt. You know, if you're from Johnson County, there's a couple things you know, and hunting's one of them. And Pastor Matt probably doesn't brag about his hunting a whole lot, but, you know, he likes to get out there every now and then and get out in the field and do what it says in Genesis about breaking out your bow and quiver and harvesting meat. So I actually got to go out with Pastor Matt, and I don't know how many of y'all know Sheriff Steve Bizzle from Johnson County, and how many of y'all know the Mayor Jody. But we all went out. We were deer hunting. You know, we've all deer hunted most of our life, and we were walking through the woods talking, just kind of spreading the gospel and just talking about our lives and how much things have changed over the years. And I think the biggest buck I had ever seen came running out, just busting out across the field, you know. And all of us are standing there, and, you know, we're just goofing off. We're not really hunting. And so everybody threw their guns up, and, you know, boom, 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 everybody shot. And this buck just does a flip. And so, you know, 4 of us shot, so somebody had to kill the deer. So we all walk over there, and, of course, you know, there's 1 bullet hole in this deer. So now we got a little dilemma, because this is the biggest deer any 4 of us have ever seen. And, you know, man, everybody over there is going to get hotter than a fire's nest at a flash flood if it ain't their deer. So, you know, I threw my thing out with them real quick. I'm like, hey, here's the deal, man. You know, I've been a hunter since I've been 3 years old. I'm probably one of the better shots around here, and I know hunting, and I'm pretty sure that's my bullet. And, you know, Steve Bizzle jumped in right behind me, and he's like, Bo, you know what, man, I'm a sheriff, and, you know, I'm certified in guns, so there's no way I missed that shot. And he couldn't even get out his mouth before Jody jumped in, the mayor, and he's like, Bo, I'm a politician. We don't never lie. If I say I hit it, I hit it. You know, Pastor Matt's over there, eyes are rolling, and Pastor Matt said, well, you know, I have a true aim and a pure heart, and probably God's on my side. So if I had to guess, my bullet was probably guided because we're going to do something really good with that deer, donate to the homeless or feed some families, you know. So we're all basically arguing over whose deer this is, and it gets pretty loud. You know, you get a bunch of Johnson County rednecks over arguing over a whitetail. It gets right out of hand. And so before you know it, I seen a little green head coming through the woods, a little hat, and it was a game warden. That mug rolled right up on us. And I was like, uh-oh, I hope I got my hunting license. And if not, I hope he's a fan of the show. And so anyway, he walks up and says, what's the commotion? We tell him the story. And he said, well, man, I've been a game warden 30 years. I can take one look at the deer, and I can tell you who killed it. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, let me just look at it. He walks there, he looks at it, he flips it over, walks back. I mean, 20 seconds tops. He's like, no doubt, it's Pastor Matt's. And we're all like, Bo, you look at a deer 20 seconds. You ain't been around. You don't even know what kind of guns we're shooting. How you know it's Pastor Matt's? He said, well, the deer's got 1 bullet hole. And it went in one ear and out the other, and that had to be a pastor. So, you know, the point of that is honestly that I hope that what we talk about tonight very briefly doesn't go in one ear and out the other. You know, I hope it stays. I hope it touches home. I hope it hits at least one heart. My whole life I've been all about the one. Since I've been saved, it's always been about the one. One of my favorite parables is parable of lost sheep. Goes out to save the one, leaves the 99. One of the most ironic things I've ever noticed is that most people really never concentrated on the one. And everybody in here probably knows who Billy Graham is. Short of Jesus Christ himself and maybe John the Baptist, he's the greatest evangelist, in my opinion, of all time. Reached hundreds of millions of people over the years through tapes, countries. I mean, he's just, you know, he is just phenomenal in his ministry. And I'm not going to say that I agree with everything somebody says. I'm just saying I love Billy. He's a phenomenal man, and he gave his life to God, and it's just to see him minister is amazing. And so, what amazes me, though, is that very few people, when you talk about Billy Graham, can tell you the name of the man that said the sinner's prayer with Billy Graham, the name of the man that helped Billy Graham find Jesus Christ. That guy's name was Mordecai Ham, H-A-M. And almost nobody, when you talk to him, it doesn't matter the age, knows about Mordecai Ham. And, it's amazing because had it not been for Mordecai Ham, had Jesus not put Mordecai Ham in Billy Graham's path, had Billy Graham not been open for the gospel of Jesus Christ, for salvation, to realize he was a sinner, violated the canons, and his debt was paid, had it not been for the one, millions might have never heard the gospel. And it just amazes me how God works like that, how he just takes the one. And, when you think about people in this room, it's all about the one. Each one of you could make a difference. Each one of you could be the next Mordecai Ham. Each one of you could be the next president or the next Billy Graham. And what I run into when I deal with youth around this country is that they always think they're not worthy enough, or they always think they're not good enough, or they always think they're not smart enough, or they're not pretty enough, or they're not thin enough. There's always something holding them back. No matter who I talk to, no matter how much God they got in them, no matter how much Jesus, there's always, I find, as we have conversations, there's something holding them back. And I tell them all the same thing. I say, if you don't think that God can make something great out of something minuscule, you've never stood under an oak tree and held an acorn. If you have any doubt of God's glory and power, do that. Just hold an acorn in your hand and look up at what was created from such a small thing. And, I tell them all that God, in my opinion and in my life, is the person that makes something out of nothing. God has always and will always make something out of nothing. God came in Genesis. You go to Genesis, and, Genesis starts out in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth, Right there's nothing. God creates something. He takes and creates the heavens and the earth. It goes on through the first couple of chapters of Genesis to tell you about the 6 days of creation. It goes on to tell you how there was nothing. And I know some people believe in the Big Bang Theory, and honestly I do too, because I believe God said bang and it happened. But, man, God goes on to say, let there be light. And there's light. There was nothing there, and then bam, there's light. God goes on to say, light's not good enough, so I'm going to create a greater light and a lesser light. And the greater light shall rule the day, and the lesser light shall rule the night. And, I think he kind of was referring to that to husband and wife, like the husband's the greater light, the wife's the lesser light. You don't think that? How about the other way around? Maybe the husband's the lesser light? I have learned being married, there's two theories to arguing with women, don't neither one of them work. But, through the whole chapter, it goes on to tell you how God made the stars. There was nothing there. How God continued to take the oceans and the water, and all of a sudden he put life in it. How God made animals, and he just put them right on the earth. There was absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And God made something. And made something great and something that is just astonishing. And when you look at the human body with 40 million moving parts in your eyes alone, the fact your nose faces down, the fact your ears face forward, the fact that you need the toes on your feet to keep balance. You start looking at the human body, it's amazing at just how much time God put into this. And I always, I'm not getting into the theory of evolution. I don't get into arguments about that. I got it figured like this right here. I love everybody. I don't care what you believe or what you see. I know my beliefs. At the end of time, we're all going to be in one line. It's either going to be your line or mine. Regardless, if I'm wrong, I don't lose nothing. But if you're wrong, you got a whole lot to lose. So, but I look at apes. If you've ever noticed, we peel a banana. When we peel a banana, we hold a banana curved in. The stem's up. You pull the banana, you peel it down, right? Watch National Geographic. When an ape peels a banana, he turns it facing the wrong way with the wrong end up and bites it off. I mean, it's small things like that. It just separates us where God made so much of something out of nothing. And it just blows me away. And, when they said God created creatures, God created land animals. He created dragons and dinosaurs. And I tell people that and they laugh, but have you ever read the book of Job? Go read the book of Job, and it gives you the perfect description of a dragon. And I firmly believe, and not that it matters, but I firmly believe that if you read that, I don't think somebody just invented a dragon in folklore. I think something like a dragon used to live. Dinosaurs, I'm sure they roamed the earth at some time. We don't understand what an hour is to God or a day is to God, and our minds can't fathom that. But, it's just amazing to look at what he created. And I look at if he created us, and he created the 9 levels of angelic beings. In heaven there's 9 levels of angelic beings. Angels are the 9th. There's thrones, there's cherubims, there's archangels. I mean, there's 9 levels of beings. But if he's a creator, Just like any creator, like anybody who paints a masterpiece, anybody who builds a house, you don't do just one. You keep creating, you keep building. There's no telling when we get to heaven what is up there and what else is in existence in places we'll never know, because God is the master creator, and he has spent everything that he has done that I look at, he creates something out of nothing. And it blows me away when I look at my life and how he's changed my life, and he's changed the life of my family by taking me, which in opinion was a nothing. And honestly, most times I still feel like a nothing, and he made something out of it. I told that story to a professor at college one time, and, he laughed at me. And I got to thinking, talking to some friends, and one of them told me another story about, he said he had heard a professor up at Harvard one time wanted to challenge God, and he called God out and said, hey, you know what, God, I can create life. Creating life's not that hard. I can create life. And God said, all right, I'll tell you what, go ahead, show us how you create life. So the professor, got all his stuff there and had his electrodes and had his microscopes and all the stuff that he uses. And he says, all right, God, I'm getting ready to create life. And he pulls out a big box of dirt because, you got to start with dirt, right? That's man comes from earth, man goes to earth. And God said, whoa, 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 whoa. First, you got to create dirt. And you think about that. God, it's everything. It's everything around you. And it just stacks on top of each other. And where we get misled, especially as youth, is we don't feel that we are something. At times we feel we are absolutely worthless. And we do this as adults. We spend more time beating ourselves up than anybody else ever will. I firmly believe that Satan's #1 tool against us is our minds. I honestly believe that he takes our minds, because he is the king of the earth. He is who God lets rule the earth. He takes our minds and manipulates them. And he uses our own minds against us. And he has so many techniques in so many ways. And most people don't really have a picture of what Satan is or what he looks like. And we're not really going to go into that. But if you ever go to Ezekiel, read the book of Ezekiel, there's a perfect description of Satan. It's the only one you'll find in the Bible. There's an absolute perfect description of Satan. It tells you about all the gems on his back, the hundreds of eyes, the 4 wings, the 4 heads. It is a phenomenal description of Satan. And I've gone back and checked in the Greek and the Hebrew, and they are basically going back to talk about this is how Satan looks. He was the most beautiful angel in heaven. He was the most angelic. He was the angel of light. He was the angel of music. So everything that sin is, everything that Satan does looks beautiful. It sounds good to us, he makes everything appealing, and I found out that one of the few things we can't resist is temptation. So, when you stop and look at that, he takes our mind and makes us feel absolutely worthless, makes us feel sorry, makes us feel that we're not able to do the things that God has called us to do, makes us feel that we don't deserve to do the things God calls us to do. Satan uses our minds to hold us back. And I'm telling you, as youth, as you're going into high schools and colleges and on into the workforce, that your mind is going to be your biggest enemy throughout the rest of your life. Because if you read the Bible, you can't tame the tongue. No man can tame the tongue. And what comes to the tongue? The tongue is ran by the mind. So because we can't tame the tongue, the mind is what triggers everything we do. The mind is what runs everything. And the problem is Jesus is in your heart. So that's why you put on the helmet of salvation when you get on to the Ephesians. That's why you put on the armor of God that he tells you to put on, so you can guard your mind, so you can protect your mind. And that's how God makes something out of nothing. But I want to just take a minute tonight to show you just how Satan manipulates your mind. And some of you have probably heard some of this before, but this is something I really enjoy doing, and I want to see just how good it is. So every one of you have a penny right now, okay? For the rest of this service, I want you to take that penny, and I want you to hold it in your left hand if you write with your right, or your right hand if you hold it left. I don't want you to put the penny down. I don't want you to put it in your pocket. I don't want you to put it on the floor. And I don't want you to give it to the person beside you. I want you to hold this penny. I don't want that penny to leave your hand, okay? I want you to put a death grip on it like, Spock and his little Vulcan grip. And we're going to take a quiz. So I want you to get your pencil out or your pen and your pad. And I'm going to ask you 11 quick questions. Now, here's the deal. Don't pull out your phones. Don't talk to the person beside you. Please don't look at what they're writing down. Do not call an answer out loud, especially if you know the answer. And do not go back and change an answer when you, a minute down the road, you're like, I wrote it down wrong. Just leave what you first thought on this piece of paper. When I ask these questions, I'm going to give you 5 seconds. You need something to write with? No, we get it. Can somebody help that young man right there? Thank y'all. You have 5 seconds. Anybody else need something to write with? What happened to my volunteers? Y'all like a blind man at a silent movie over here. What's going on, bro? Really? If you don't have a pen, you need a pen. You need something to write with. I'm sure we'll find something. We'll facilitate it. If you have a pad, share your paper with people. There's plenty of paper on there. And we'll take a minute to do that. And while we're doing it, when everybody has something to write with, keep your hands up till you have it, and then put them down, and we'll move on. But that's exactly what Satan does. Is Satan takes and manipulates your mind. He takes and makes us think that we're less than worthy, and we're less than valid, and we're less than good enough. Because see, Satan is a deceiver. It tells you that. My specialty, every pastor has a specialty, or every pastor has a group of study, and I'm not a pastor, I'm an evangelist. And most evangelists will travel around and have 5 or 6 little speeches they do. I don't. I'll be honest with you. I have a different one for everywhere I go, because I truly feel if you're led by the Spirit, God's got something different to say to every place you go. So sometimes I'll repeat the same little quizzes, but I've never repeated the same sermon, ever. And I never will unless, God tells me. But Satan is a deceiver. And Satan is here to mislead you. Satan is here to misdirect you. He's here to make you second guess what you already know, what you believe. Satan comes in, and he wants you to try to figure out as you go into your walk with God, he wants you to question faith. He wants you to question prayer. He wants you to question power. He wants you to start questioning healing and heaven. He wants you to start second guessing yourself, because he can't stand it when you have salvation, when you have Jesus, and when you walk on faith. It drives him crazy. And Satan wants to tell you that it's just not real. And he wants to tell you if you can't feel it or see it or touch it or smell it or eat it, if you can't shoot it, if you can't take it home to mama, then it can't be real. And most of us will never have an audible encounter with God himself. Most of us will never walk in this lifetime down a path and actually hold hands with Jesus. Most of us will never see him visually right here in front of us. Some of us will, but the majority of people won't. So when you try to explain Jesus, it becomes a little difficult situation, because we know about Jesus and salvation by faith and by what he has shown us and done to us and come into our lives and done. And when you try to show that to somebody else or tell that to somebody else, they just don't understand it. They can't comprehend that, because their mind is so diluted by Satan. Has everybody got something to write with now? Still fun? Okay. Their mind is so deluded by Satan. And when I tell you he's a deceiver, a liar, a thief, he wants to turn you not only against your friends, not only against your family, not only against society, not only against the people that you go to church with and the people you go to school with. Satan wants to turn you against yourself. And the greatest battles you're ever going to have in your life are not ones fought on a field if you decide to be a soldier, or down in the trenches of a football field if you become a professional player, or down in the workforce and fighting for a better job or a better economy. The greatest warriors and the greatest battles that are fought are not done anywhere outside of your mind. Because the greatest battlefield, the strongest ground, the deepest trenches, and the most volatile place that Satan attacks us is in our mind. And that is where you have to find the faith and the reassurance. And you have to know that you know that you know that you're saved. And that's when you turn and depend on Jesus. That's why we learn Scripture to fight Satan. When Satan challenged, when the Archangel Michael came to challenge Satan and Jude over the body of Moses, he didn't fight Satan. Michael's the warrior angel. He's the strongest archangel in heaven. Why didn't he challenge Satan? Basically he said, the Lord rebukes you. He used the Scripture, the Word, which is our sword, to fight with Satan. And that's what we have to do. Because if not, Satan will take over your mind. He will get a foothold in what you think. He will make you feel worthless. And he will make you think that no matter how much you see, how many healings you see, how many prayers you hear, how much greatness you see, he will convince you at some point that God cannot make something out of nothing. So we're going to take this quick quiz. 5 seconds per answer. I'm only going to ask a question one time. I want you to write down your answer. There's going to be 11 questions. Okay? Please don't call them out. Please don't laugh. Please don't make any sounds. Just go through this list and just give me a second to show you some of the things God has revealed to me. Question 1. I want you out loud as a group to spell silk 3 times. S-I-L-K. All right, now do it one more time and try to be in unison. Question 1. What does a cow drink? And it's not a Pepsi-Cola. All right, question 2. Okay, question 2. How many of each animal, and be specific, did Moses put on the ark? Question 3. Is it possible to end a sentence with the word the? Question 4. What is the name of the raised print that deaf people use to read with? Question 5. Again, we're going to spell a word. I want you to spell boast. B-O-A-S-T. 3 times. Boast. What do you put in a toaster? Now it's noon. I want y'all to look at a clock, and if the big hand is on a 3 and the little hand is on a 5, I want you to write down what time it is. Okay? Question 7. Does Britain have a 4th of July? Question 8. Is it legal for a man to marry his widowed sister? Is it legal for a man to marry his widowed sister? Is that legal? Question 9. Some months we know have 31 days. Other months have 30. How many months have 28 days? Question 10. A truck driver is going down a one-way street. He's going the wrong way. He passes 10 cops that are all on duty, but nobody pulls him and gives him a ticket. Why? Question 11. This is going to be a 2-part question real quick. I want you to give me the lowest number and the high number. I want you to give me a range, okay? I want you to give me a range, so you'll have a low number and a high number. I want you to tell me how many cities total are there in Russia. Approximately how many cities are there in Russia? I want you to think of a low number, high number, and I want you to try to hit the number right in between it. Okay? Has everybody got their answers? Is anybody not finished with that? If not, you're slower than turtles marching uphill in February. All right. Now, some of you will get these, and some of you won't. And this isn't a question to see how smart you is. This isn't a question to challenge your IQ. If you get them right, if you get them wrong, it doesn't mean you're smart or dumb, okay? This is not that kind of test. My whole life, my mama told me if I took an IQ test, it'd probably come back negative. So, you know, I've had to learn to deal with things like this. But question 1, what does a cow drink? Milk, right? Everybody put milk, raise your hand. Milk, milk. Good answer. Wrong. Cows drink water. Okay? Question 2. How many animals did Moses take on the ark? Was it 2 by 2 or 7 by 7 or 7 clean and 7 unclean? Exactly. Moses didn't go to the ark. Noah went to the ark. Question 3. Is it possible to end a sentence with the word "the"? That sentence is ended with the word "the". That sentence, I ended it with the word "the". Okay? Question 4. What is the name of the raised print that deaf people use to read? Deaf people don't need Braille. They can see. Blind people read Braille. Question 5. What do you put in a toaster? Bread. But I guarantee you some people wrote down toast. Question 6. What time was it? It was noon. It started with, it is noon. You look at a clock. Doesn't matter what the clock said. The battery's dead in it, but it was noon. Question 7. Does Britain have a 4th of July? Yep, and a 5th, and a 6th, and a 7th, and an 8th. Sure do. But some people automatically think 4th of July is an American holiday, so Britain doesn't have it. Next question. Is it legal for a man to marry his widowed sister? It is legal. It is legal. However, it's going to be kind of hard since he's dead. Because it's his widow's sister. Ah, look at it. Light bulbs going on. Some of y'all right now are like Amish electricians in a power plant. Y'all are like just lost. Next question. Some months have 31 days. Some have 30. How many months have 28? All the months have 28 days. Okay, does anybody know why the truck driver didn't get a ticket? That's right. The truck driver was walking. Think about it. I didn't say he was driving a truck. I said he's a truck driver going down the street the wrong way. The last question, you were supposed to have me a range of numbers, okay? A range of numbers of how many cities are in Russia. There are approximately 1,108 cities in Russia, okay? Somebody give me their low and high numbers. Huh? Okay. Most people will take and come up with numbers, and they'll say 500 to 1,500, or they'll say 2,000 to 2,900, or they'll say 4,200 to 6,000. But why wouldn't you have just put down what she said? Why wouldn't you put 1 and 100 million? Because I asked you for a range, and I told you I wanted you to get the right answer. So why did you not put down 1 and 100 million? Why does it matter how big the range was? See, this is where the devil gets you. This is where he gets you. And I'm serious here. This is where he gets you. And that's fun. It's great little tricks. But questions 1 through 6, your mind's cocky. See, the human mind thinks it knows everything. The human mind is so quick to give you an answer that it does not give you time to contemplate. It does not give you time to think. When somebody asks you a question, the reason most of us finish sentences for other people is because we have cocky minds. Our minds think that they know it all. And they know the right answer, and they're going to be the first one to get out there and give it to you. And that's why when you hear a syllable or a sound like silk, you automatically think milk. Or you hear boast, you think toast. Questions 7 through 10. Your mind misleads you. The way it misleads you is by second guessing and overthinking. It never can settle for just seeing the obvious. Your mind always has to overanalyze. Your mind can never just see that, yes, Britain has a 4th of July and a 5th and a 6th. Your mind has to say, well, we have a holiday. Your mind cannot think about the fact that the man's his widow's sister. He's dead. It has to think, well, is that legal or illegal? Your mind does not want to be simple. It fights to not be simple. Your mind doesn't want to just tell you that all months have 28 days. It wants you to think that February is the only month with 28 days. Your mind fools you, tricks you. The last question, where you're supposed to give me a range, and this is all scientific, your mind cannot admit that it's wrong. Your mind cannot fathom the fact that it does not know something. Your mind cannot say, I don't know that answer. Your mind wants to give a guess. Your mind wants you to write down 2 numbers. Your mind wants you to be the closest one and the rightest one in this room. That's how your mind works. That's how all our minds work. And the devil knows this. And the devil takes these tactics and manipulates us. And that's how he starts winning the battle here. That's how he gets the people that are saved and headed on the right road and have the zeal and have the blaze and the glory and the on fire for God to start second-guessing themselves, to start questioning their salvation, to start questioning heaven and hell, to start questioning other religions, to start thinking, well, oh my goodness, if God is such a loving God, why does he let children starve? Why does he let babies get raped? Why does he let women get shot? Why does he do these things? Your mind wants to make you start guessing and giving answers when God has already told you that he's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. He's already told you that if you put your faith in him, he will deliver you. He's already told you that in this world you will, not you might, not it's possible, not there's a chance, you will have trials and tribulations. Take heart, Jesus overcome this world. Count it a blessing, my brother, when trials come your way. Time and time again in the Bible, God tells you through parables or through speech or through his son Jesus the answers. But our mind can't understand them because we can't fathom it. My little boy said the other day, we had a 30-minute conversation about who created God. He's 7. He doesn't understand that nobody created God because his mind wants him to think that somebody had to create God because everything in this room was created. And God created everything, so logically, somebody created God. Our mind cannot adapt to these things. Our mind cannot wrap itself around the fact that there's things out of our power and things out of our hold and things out of what we can truly understand. And what you have to realize, what you have to teach your mind, whether you're saved or not saved, what you have to teach yourself is that we all have problems. We all stumble. We all fall. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And we continue to sin. Not one of us in this room is perfect. No, not one. Matt's very close. But we're not. None of us are perfect. I mean, really, we're not perfect. And what I want you to do, and we're going to wind this down real quick because I'm trying not to go over, but what I want you to do is know just a few things real quick about when you get into a situation where you have stumbled or you've fallen or you've faltered. Whether you know Jesus or you don't know Jesus. Okay? First thing you need to know is, in John 1:8 it says, if we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, thus the truth is not in us. It tells you we're going to sin. We all sin. We sin. Face it. It's a fact. But don't be mistaken. There is a difference in deliberate sin and developmental sin. If Jesus is in your heart, if you understand that you are a lawbreaker, that you have broke the canons of the law, that you have done what David did with Bathsheba and broke all 10 commandments in one sitting, if you understand that, then you know right and wrong because it's already on your heart. And if you want to go out on Friday night and commit a sin and think about it preempted and do it, that's just like premeditated murder. Will God forgive you? Yes, but how is that going to affect your walk with Him? How is that going to draw you closer to Him? Because the God I know has never moved. So when I hear people come up to me and say, man, I sure feel a long way away from God, I'm like, well, turn around. You're heading in the wrong direction, Holmes. I mean, He don't move. He's right there. I mean, He's always been there. It must be you walking the wrong way. You know, and so you need to know that deliberate sin is different from developmental sin. So when you sin, especially developmental sin, it's a growth process. It's the pruning of the trees. It's something that's going to happen. And God loves you and forgives you, and He wants you to learn from it and grow. Just like when you mess up on a test, just like when you misspell a word, just like when you get a ticket because you're speeding. I'm not going to say no names, but her initials are Amy Shirley. You know what I'm saying? God knows. The second thing you need to know, honestly, is that it's not your style that matters. It's your lifestyle. Don't nobody care in ultra reality what you wear, what kind of shoes you got. I mean, for the love of God itself, look at this haircut. Seriously. I mean, you know, this ain't like Beckham style, you know, but I wear it for a reason. But, you know, man, people don't care about your style. What they want to see is your lifestyle, especially if you're a believer. Because you're on a pedestal that's not fair, that's not right. They shouldn't put you there, but you're there. And God told you, Jesus told you that you're going to be held accountable. And people are going to watch you because they always want to see you fall. And how do they see you fall? Not with your words, but with your action. And when you fall, they attack you. When you get time, and I don't really have time now, but when you get time, read Romans 8:1 and 8:12 through 13. Just stop and read those. Romans 8:1, 8:12 through 13. You know, the world doesn't want your theology. The world is sick of religion. The world is sick of the Jesus pill. The world is sick of apologetics. The world is sick of that. They don't want your theology. What the world wants is proof. They want proof there's a Jesus Christ. They want proof there's a heaven and hell. They want proof there's a God. They want proof. Well, how do we give them proof? How can we prove there's a God? It's real simple. See, your mind is already thinking, how can we prove there's a God? Let me think of the ways. It's real simple, man. It's in the Bible in black and white. It tells you through your life, through your actions. Let them see Jesus alive in you. That's how you prove there's a God. They see you're different. They hear you're different. They notice you walk away when everybody else is going in a certain direction. They know that what you're doing is not of the norm. When they walk up to you, they feel a presence or they feel something that just isn't like everybody else. And that's when they open the door. That's when God gives you the chance to hit that bridge and say, you know what's different? It's not me, it's what's in me. That's what's different. There's your proof. The devil doesn't want you to think that. The devil wants you to think you've got to prove that there's a physical God. We all got problems. All of us in here have problems. Everybody in here. And some are worse than others. But you know what? To every person in this room, to a young girl that's 15 and is in love or thinks she's in love with a boy, him breaking up with her on Friday afternoon before the prom or before the date is just as bad to that person as another child who just lost their sibling or parent. I know that we see problems on different levels. But to those persons, to you, your problem is a big problem. No matter how small it seems to the world, that's a big problem to you. And the devil knows that. And he's going to make it a bigger problem what you see. That's why all sins are the same. You go to hell just as quick for lying as you do for stealing eggs. I mean, you do. I mean, you go to hell just as quick for murdering somebody as you do for lying. See, God is sin. That's sin. And the devil doesn't want you to think that. He wants you to think, well, a little lie is okay. He wants to use your mind to set levels up because we have societal levels. We have levels of structure. We have levels of organization. We have political levels. Here in this church and everywhere we go, our society is structured with levels. That's why we're democracy. So our mind cannot comprehend something without levels and order and structure. And that's not the way heaven's set up, and that's not the way sin's set up. Heaven has structure. But to God at the throne, a sin is a sin. That's the bottom line. It's a sin. You have to persevere. In these times of trials and tribulations, in these times when you have stumbled and fallen and the devil is on your back, like Mike Tyson on Michael Spinks in the '88 title fight, you've got to persevere. Charles Spurgeon, the Prince of Preachers, one of my favorite guys, said the snail made it to the ark through perseverance. Now, Moses didn't get him there. But the snail, think about that. The snail made it to the ark. Y'all know how slow a snail is. He persevered. The question is not, though, as a Christian, as a saved person, as somebody who knows Jesus Christ on a personal level, will you persevere? The question is, will you persevere as a warrior or a whiner? Are you going to look at what's going on around you and say, oh, my God, look how big my problems are? Or are you going to look at your problem and say, hey, check this out, problem, look how big my God is? How are you going to persevere? And if you let Satan convince you that you're dumb and you're worthless and you're sorry and you're no count and the sins cannot be forgiven and what you've done, you should never be a preacher, you should never be a husband, you should never be a father, you have no right to work with children, you have no right to be in a daycare, you have no right to talk to people about Jesus Christ because what you've done is just put you on a level that is insurmountable. It's insurmountable. And that's what the devil does. He wants you to feel that way because if you think you're dumb and worthless and no good, you're going to live like you're dumb and worthless and no good. And my God and my Savior tells me that I am something made from nothing. And that each of you are something made from nothing. If you let God script your life, if you let Him show you your value, if you give it all to Him, He'll take care of it. You don't have to have the battle of the mind. You have to have the battle of the heart. You can't stop problems from coming. You can't. They're going to come. So what you got to decide is, are you going to be the problem or are you going to be the problem solver? What you have to decide is, are you going to be a victim or are you going to be a victor? And all that decision is not made in the mind. All that decision is made in the heart. Every bit of that is made in the heart. Every bit of that, man. So we're going to end with a quick story. And this is a serious story. And sometimes I get emotional because I care. I care about everybody in this room. I care about every soul, every heart. I didn't do this TV show for money because, honestly, it's not that good. I mean, it's not. Our first couple of seasons, me and my wife made $500 a week to be on TV. Everybody thinks TV is fame and fortune. And it has great perks. But my perks and my wife's perks and my family's perks is TV has allowed us to show people there's something different about us. TV has allowed us to take Jesus Christ and the gospel into the entire world. We're in 8 countries right now. We have DVDs that are not even being made because we're not allowed to make them. They don't sell them, but we have people cutting DVDs and sending them to Afghanistan for our soldiers, and they're finding their way into the homes of Muslims. We've got atheists watching our show. We've got agnostics watching our show. We've got Buddhists watching our show, and I love every one of them, and I don't question them, and I don't challenge them, but I care. And I hope that when they watch it, they laugh. I hope they feel, honestly, I hope they're happy in a hyena at a hemp smoking convention. I hope they run around like a peach orchard hog eating pears. I mean, man, I hope they see this show and they're like, oh, this is the greatest bunch of crazy rednecks I've ever seen. These guys right here, man, of course we do got Bobby who done was dirty, cover half an acre, but he is the redneck Hercules, And I hope they see all this, but then I hope at the end they're like, man, why is Ronnie such a wuss? Why doesn't he fight? Why has he never hit nobody? Or maybe they say, well, I've watched for 5 years now and I've never heard one curse word. Not that that makes me any better, because not cursing doesn't make you a better person. No more than being born in the oven makes you a biscuit. But what I'm saying is, I try not to do it on TV. You know what I'm saying? Do words slip out of my mouth? Is a pig's rump made of pork? Sometimes I say things I regret, but, we all do. But that's why I did this show. That's why me and Amy took it. That's why we sit down and pray every night. That's why we have persevered. And honestly, y'all, this show is hard. It's not the glim and glamour you think it is. I fuss with my film crew on a daily basis. Daily basis. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just because I care. Most people on TV don't care. Pay them. Them mugs will go out, shave their tail, look like the southern end of a northern mountain donkey. They don't care. If you don't believe me, watch Operation Repo. I mean, I ain't saying it's bad. I'm just saying it ain't good. But I care. So if I get emotional in this quick story, I'm really sorry. And, this story is not to bring you down. It's to make you think. This is not a story of hurt and pain. This is a story that, honestly, when you leave here, I want you to think. Because the devil has fooled you long enough. Saved or unsaved, Christian or not, agnostic or atheist, I don't care. The devil has made your mind and twisted and manipulated it long enough. And what I want you to leave here with tonight is the knowledge of your heart can always oversee the mind. The knowledge that Jesus Christ doesn't have to be understood. He just has to be followed. The knowledge that God doesn't have to give you the answers. He's just got to be there when you need him. And he is. I want you to take the penny you have in your hand. I want you to grip it real tight. And I want you to think about this. I want you to hold that penny. I want you to grip it. Don't let nobody get it out of your hand. Don't drop it. There was a very rich man. And this very rich man had more money than we can fathom. He was probably one of the top 5 richest men in the world. Billions of dollars. Sorry if I got out of my way. This man was rich beyond compare. There's nothing in the world he couldn't buy. There was nothing in the world he couldn't own. There was nothing in the world he couldn't have. He owned islands and businesses and corporations. And this man was happy. His wife had died a couple years ago. His parents were long gone. He had no siblings. The only thing this man had in his entire life was his little boy. That's all he had. And one day he got a phone call. And it was his nanny. And she said, "We got a problem. We got a major problem." And this little boy was screaming to the top of his lungs in the background. This little boy was yelling. This little boy was in conniptions. And you've heard children cry when they're like, and they can't breathe. And this little boy was there. And he's like, "What is wrong with my son?" And she said, "Just come home." So he jumps in his little private jet and he flies out of town. He gets in his little limousine and he flies to the house with his driver and he runs inside at full speed. And when he gets inside, he sees this little boy. Beautiful child, about 2 years old. And the little boy's hand is stuck in a vase. And the little boy's not in danger. But he's going crazy because he can't get his hand out of this vase. He can't do it. And the problem is this vase is the only thing this man owns that has no price tag. This vase was a family heirloom, handed down from father to father to father to father. This vase could not be bought, could not be replaced. This vase was the only thing in the world that meant anything to this man other than his son. So he immediately grabs the phone because of the power and the influence he has, and he says, "Send a doctor over here now. I want the top world surgeons flown in right now. I want you to bring me architects. I want engineers. I want every person who could possibly get my son's hand out of this vase because I can't destroy this vase. And I can't stand to see my son suffer." And so they start flying in one after another. The surgeons walk in and they try and they try, and as hard as they try, they take and grease the hands and they pull and they pull and they jerk and they jerk. And the hand was just not free from the vase. And the little boy is screaming louder and louder. The little boy is crying with crocodile tears coming from his face. The little boy is losing it. And the father's like, somebody do something. And the plumbers come up, and the electricians come up, and the architects come up, and one after another, after another, after another, they come up and they fail, and they fail, and they fail. And the man says, I'll pay $1 million if you can get his hand out of the vase without breaking it. I will pay anything you want. I will give you my house, my company, my cars. Please save my little boy in this vase. And person after person after person continues to try, and they cannot do it. They cannot get his hand out. And the tears get bigger, and the cries get louder, and they become shrieks, and the kid's like, Daddy, help me. Daddy, save me. Daddy, take care of me. Daddy, get my hand out of this vase. Daddy, don't you love me? Don't you care? Come on, Daddy. And the father's heart starts breaking, and he can no longer stand. He can't take it. So what does he do? He grabs his little boy. He grabs the little boy, and he sets his hand on the table. He sets his hand on the table, and he picks up a hammer. And this vase that had meant so much to him, this vase that could not be replaced, this vase that he could do nothing with, he raises the hammer above his head, and he looks at his child. And he says, Child, I do love you. I love you enough to shatter this vase. And he takes his child into his arms. And he holds him. And he squeezes him. And the tears pour from his child's face. And the father looks at the vase that he can't replace, but he has his little boy. His little boy. What he loves more than life. He's got his little boy. And he's holding his little boy, and he's squeezing his little boy, and he's not ever going to let him go. And he looks down, and he sees that his little boy's hand is clenched. And one by one, he pries the fingers open in the little boy's hand. And in the middle of his hand is a penny. And the father says, Son, as anger sweeps over him, as he becomes enraged and mad, as he just gets furious at his little boy because he has just shattered a vase that can never be replaced, he says, Son, why did you not open your hand so we could remove it from the vase? And the little boy said, Daddy, if I'd opened my hand, I'd have had to drop my penny. Each of you have a penny in your hand. Each of you have a problem. And you and God know what it is. That penny in your hand represents something that's holding you back from your walk with God. That penny in your hand represents something that the devil has told you you're not worthy enough. That penny in your hand represents something that you're ashamed of, that you're embarrassed about, that you don't want people to know. That penny represents what keeps you from becoming something. That penny is what's holding you back. Whether you've robbed somebody, whether you've killed somebody, whether you have an addiction, be it drugs, porn, whatever. Whether you've been molested as a child. Whether you've seen your siblings beat or your mother beat. Whether you know that you do things on a daily basis that God is embarrassed about. And you're so ashamed that you can't tell anybody. So what you do is you squeeze that penny. And you hold that penny in your hand. And you don't want to let it go because heaven forbid the world find out about this penny. In my life, I've held a lot of pennies. And I can stand here before you. Not because I'm any good. Not because I'm better than anybody in this room. Like Paul, I'm probably the worst sinner that's ever graced the doors of this church. I've held pennies in my hands of hatred and anger. I've been a drug addict. I've sold dope. I've been addicted to steroids. I have hurt people beyond repair. I have broken hearts. I have destroyed families. I've been raped. I've seen things that I can't even talk to my wife about. And I've done things that I'm ashamed to talk to her about, but I do. I've held my pennies. And I've held them with such ferocity and ferociousness that there's no way that anyone would ever get them from me and they would never find out about them. And a couple years ago, God came to me and said, Ronnie, it's time. It's time to let go of the pennies. And like the Father He is, He pried my fingers open one by one, just like yours. So you pry your fingers open and look at your hand. Look at the penny. That penny represents something that is holding you back. That penny represents something that is destroying you mentally. That penny is the devil's way of keeping you from the best relationship you could have with Jesus Christ. And it's so simple. Because whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Because God said all you got to do is let go of your pennies. Thank y'all for having me.
Come on, give it up for Ronnie one more time. Thank him for coming and sharing tonight. Do this one real quick. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. We're going to go ahead and we're going to close tonight in prayer. So if you all everyone want to close your eyes and bow your heads, that would be great. Maybe something that Ronnie said to you, spoke to you tonight, and it spoke to you deep down. You want to give your heart over to Jesus. You want to quit living for yourself. You want to quit holding on to some things that maybe you've been holding on to for a long time, and maybe God's really stirred something up in your heart tonight, and you want to do something about it. Then as we get ready to pray, then you just want to pray this prayer, and then we're going to party. We have an after party afterwards. We're going to do some real fun things. We're going to do a short little Q&A with Ronnie and Amy. But before we do that, we don't want to leave tonight without giving you an opportunity to have Jesus come into your heart. So with every head bowed and every eye closed, if that is you and something spoke to you tonight and you want to give your heart over to Jesus, then just pray this prayer. Say, Dear Jesus, I can't do this by myself anymore. God, I quit holding on to my life. God, I quit holding on to the things that I'm trying to control, God, and I give it over to you. God, thank you for saving me. God, thank you for coming down on this earth, God, being born, living this life as a human being, God, and dying on a cross, God, and then raising again, God, so that you could take my sin. You could take my sin, Jesus, and that I could live an eternal life with you, God. So thank you for doing that, God. Thank you for coming into my heart, God. I open my heart to you, God, to take all the junk that I've been holding on to, God, and to give it over to you, God. And from this day forward, God, I live for you, Jesus. Not that I'm going to be perfect, but that I'm going to strive to be more like you. God, thank you, God. Thank you for your grace. God, thank you for saving me, God. Thank you for what you're doing on the inside now, Jesus. And thank you for who you are, God, and that you live inside of me now, God. We love you. Praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. If that was you, if you'll do me a favor real quick, we would love to be able to connect with you. If you could raise your hand real quick, I want to give you a card. It's nothing to be embarrassed of. If you raise your hand, want to celebrate with you. And even if you don't raise your hand and it's just you didn't feel comfortable raise your hand, that's okay. Then afterwards, after the Q&A, we do have a room right through these doors on my left. If you would just go through there, we want to connect with you. It's a real small setting. We just want to celebrate with you. We want to celebrate what God did in your life, and then we'll let you go and be a part of the after party. So if you prayed that prayer, then please go over into the connection room over here at the end of service, and we would love to be able to just connect with you, share with the next steps. What does that look like to live a life for Jesus, and kind of put some tools and resource you. We'll give you a Bible. We'll give you some stuff to help you succeed in your walk with Christ. But how many of you want to do a Q&A with Ronnie and Amy real quick before we finish the service? Before we finish the service, let me make sure I have my phone, because that's where we're going to go ahead and bring the stools up. We can bring Amy up, and we'll bring Ronnie from the